Good morning, Year 10. I hope you're well and having a lovely day. This is Mr. Souza, and your lesson today will be on deliberative speech. Please could you write down the date and title in your book, and then complete the do now. Using what you learnt last lesson, define the following terms: judicial rhetoric, epidactic rhetoric, and deliberative rhetoric. You have 3 minutes to do this, so please pause the video now. Okay, so you should have, please could you correct your terms by referring back to last lesson. After that, I would like you to write this definition of deliberative rhetoric into your books. This is an argument relating to or intended for consideration or discussion. An argument is made using examples from the past to predict future outcomes in order to illustrate that a given policy or action will either be harmful or beneficial in the future. After you've written this definition into your book, I would like you to draw the image of the 2 speech bubbles as a visual aid to help remind you what this type of speech is. So moving on to DeForest, can you remember what this acronym stands for? Write what you remember before pressing enter to reveal the answers. So some people do DeForest with 1 R, as I've taught you. Some people use double R, and we're now going to move on to using the 2 Rs. So even though we haven't looked at the second R before, you could probably guess what it is. So when you write it down, have a go, think what the other R might stand for. So pause the video now to write down DeForest and what it stands for. Okay, so we've got direct address, talking directly to the audience. Alliteration or anecdote, we learn anecdote, but some people do alliteration. So anecdote, short personal story. Alliteration, 2 or more words beginning with the same letter. Facts, statements proven to be true. Opinions, personal beliefs. Rhetorical questions is one of the R that we haven't done. So that's a question you ask purely for effect. And you've also got repetition, which is what we talked about, repeating a word or phrase for effect. Emotive language, language that makes you feel a particular emotion. Statistics, numerical data proven to be true. And tricolon, or rule of 3, a group of 3 words or phrases for effect. So consider, why might these be useful in a deliberative speech? Explain your answer, so please pause the video for a couple of minutes to answer that now. Also make sure you've gotten them all written down in your book. Okay, so the speech we're looking at today is the Education speech by Tony Blair. So you can tell straight away he's got a tricolon and repetition in the title of the speech. So why is education important to all of us? Please pause the video and jot down a few ideas. So we're now going to read the speech. One of his main arguments is the importance of education. So please could you open up the document, either in Word or PDF, whatever is easier, and read through it in your own time. Once you've read it, annotate it, identifying the range of DeForest features used in the speech. A few have been done for you to demonstrate what you need to do. So please pause the video to annotate the speech in as much detail as you can. Pick out everything you can. And you have 10 to 15 minutes to do that. Okay, next I would like you to explore Blair's arguments in a bit more detail. I'd like you to highlight what you believe to be the 3 most compelling quotes from the speech. So what are the 3 arguments that you found to be the most convincing? For each quote, I'd like you to write a short PEE paragraph explaining the effective use of a rhetorical technique. You have 10 minutes to do this. I've also given you an example. So your point might be, Blair effectively uses a technique of repetition in his speech. Evidence. This can be seen when he says, education, education, education. Explain. By repeating the word education, Blair is making it clear that education is one of his highest priorities and indicates to the audience that he will take an active role in improving the country's education. As a challenge, you might want to add a link to another point or technique used in the speech. So please pause the video for 10 minutes to do that now. Okay, what I'd like you to do next is try and put some of Blair's techniques into practice. So imagine you are a politician. You have been asked by the Prime Minister to write a speech called Jobs, Jobs, Jobs. Using the same style to FORREST techniques, plan your speech. Write a list of techniques with examples that you will use, such as fact, without a job you cannot afford your family. Then plan how you will structure your speech. For example, paragraph 1, start with a startling fact and emotive language to introduce topic. You have 10 minutes to do this, so please pause the video now. Okay, so this is your last task. Jobs, jobs, jobs. Now, write your speech. Try and include as many devices as you can, but don't forget the basics: spelling and grammar, vocabulary, a range of sentence structures, and punctuation, and make your punctuation as varied as you can. So please don't just revert back to commas and full stops. Also use colons, semicolons, dashes, brackets. If you're not yet comfortable with these, now's a really good time when you've got some extra time to get familiar with them. Use one of the following sentence starters if you would like. Jobs open doors. Jobs make the world go round. Jobs are your lifeline. Without a job, you have no purpose. Do you want to end up lonely and depressed and possibly living on the streets? So, really strong sentence starters, but I'll be even more impressed if you can make one up yourself. As a challenge, once you've written your speech, annotate the devices you have used, as you did with Blair's speech. But that depends how much time you have. And so you have 15 minutes to do this. Please pause the video now. Okay, so that brings us to the end of today's lesson. I hope you found it interesting and somewhat enjoyable. As a final thing, if you're wondering why I did poetry first and then moved on to language, so literature then language, there wasn't a particular reason for it. I'm not sure about you lot, but I've sort of lost track of what day it is. So when I recorded the poetry, I for some reason thought it was Wednesday when it was actually Sunday. So a bit embarrassing. That's why I did literature than language. However, as literature is a bit more tricky, as poetry is a bit trickier than our work on rhetorical speeches, I think we're going to stick with doing poetry first and then language later on in the week. But that's the reason why. I'm not sure if you're feeling like that, kind of all the days melding into one and waking up not entirely sure what's going on, or that could just be me. I'm not sure. But anyway, like I said, I hope you enjoyed today's lesson. Please do get in touch. If you want to show me your work, please do. I haven't heard much from your class, and by much I mean anything, so it would be lovely to hear something from you, be it, just a line telling me how you're finding the unit, or a picture of what you've done. It would be great to hear something from you. Okay, so end of today's lesson. Thank you very much and see you next time.